guess we'll go ahead and kick this interview off. I'll start off by just asking if you could state your name and occupation and just a little bit of background about yourself.
Sure. My name is Mike Dickinson. I'm the director of projects for Williams. Lead a project, a team that's responsible for growth projects for our regulated and Gulf of Mexico assets at Williams. And I'm about 25 years in industry, all with Williams. Held a variety of roles in both the project and operations side of the business, and I've been a formal leader now for about 15 years. So
Awesome. That's a good amount of time. So I guess I'll start off by saying or asking, what motivates you to be a leader?
it's a good question. I saw that on the list there and kind of thought about it a little bit. And I think at the root of it for me is a desire to win. So I like to be on teams and I like to be part of winning teams. And from a leadership perspective, I think maybe it's the coach in me a little bit that really comes down to when you think about a team and the people that are on that team that are all pulling together to go win, helping those folks, be their best, be in a position to be successful, helping them, helping understand what winning looks like for them and helping put them in that position. I think I get excited about that. And so I think that's the motivation for me, kind of what makes me get up in the morning when it comes to being a leader. So
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good drive to have. Not a lot of people have that, and it kind of speaks a lot to your leadership, I guess, forte. Okay, so how did you work your way into leadership and management into your current role?
So, I think that's a good thing to think about. And there were kind of a couple of questions that sort of tie back to this. And so I'll just kind of share some of my perspective on leadership and management and maybe the difference between the two. And I think, a lot of times I think folks think about leadership as a position in the company. And I think probably a better way for us to think about leadership is that's a skill set. That's a competency that enables you to have a certain role in the company. And you don't have to have that role. You don't need to be a manager or a supervisor to be a leader, right? You can be a leader as an individual contributor. Um, and and I think becoming a leader in an individual contributor role, starts to say, okay, well, this person is demonstrating this skill of leadership. And so they will now be a good manager, right? I think when we see managers that fail at their position or at their role, it's when we promote somebody that maybe is the best technically at their job, like they're the
Mhm.
best engineer, they're the best accountant, or they're the best whatever, the best maintenance technician, but they're not a good leader yet. And so they get in that position of leadership as the best technically skilled person,
Yeah.
but not the best leadership skilled person. And
Mhm.
so, I think when you kind of put all that together and kind of as I think about my career and kind of how I wound up in management, um, I think I've always really enjoyed being part of a team, right? Whether it's a project team or an asset team or whatever it is, but a group that, hey, we've got this, really ambitious goal and we're going to go try to, achieve this. And, you know, as a role player on that team, you know, having that sense of group and that sense of us and that sense of we, and using words like let's do this, or we ought to do that. It's like, as you're driving that team as a member of that team, I think you start to sort of you know be a leader, right? And so
Right.
you're being a leader without necessarily trying to be a leader when you're, hey, we ought to do this, or hey, let's go this direction, or let's, hey, I think it's left and not right, right? You're being part of that team and helping that team win, and you're starting to be a leader, and people start to follow you because I think that's the right direction. And and so then then you're demonstrating that, and folks start saying, hey, have you thought about you know manager of operations? Have you thought about these more formal roles, because you're leading, right? You're not a leader, but you're not in a leadership position, but you're
Right.
leading. So have you thought about these leadership roles?
Right.
And so from that, I kind of stepped into my first leadership role, and clearly there were some things that didn't know, but you kind of keep learning as you go. Um, but I think that's sort of the natural progression is, you know, lead without stripes,
Mhm.
and then you start to get stripes, and go from there. So
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. You're kind of saying, even people that aren't formal leaders, leaders in a sense are kind of just born from the people. Like they kind of arise because they kind of exhibit those qualities prior to having that actual title. That makes a lot of sense.
yeah, I mean, a manager has to have a team given to them,
Right.
but all a leader needs is somebody that's following them, right?
Right. Yeah.
So if you're leading and somebody's following, well, then you're a leader, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it kind of kind of goes that direction. So
No, that really good answer. Really good answer. I think you kind of answered these next two in that answer. So I'll ask you this next question. Kind of just more about the team you work with every day. But like, how do you motivate your team to perform at a higher level as a leader?
yeah, I think one of the things that I've discovered over time is that in general, for the most part, people want to do a good job. Right. I
Mhm.
mean, nobody wakes up and comes into work today like, yeah, I think I'm just going to like not be very good at my job today. I mean, I've had performance problems on my teams, and you deal with those, but for the most part, 95% of your team is showing up wanting to do a good job, right?
Mhm.
And so I think when it comes to motivation, kind of two things that I think are really important is, you know, people want to do a good job for something that that they feel is valuable, right? And so helping people on your team understand what is it that they're doing that they think is valuable,
Mhm.
and help point that out, right? I mean, if it's, moving natural gas or building pipelines or whatever it is that sort of makes that person say, oh, I'm doing something worthwhile, and help them see the value in what they're doing, then they want to do a good job, right? And then it's a matter of sort of painting what good looks like, so help them see the value in what they're doing, and then paint the picture of what good looks like, right? I mean, if that's, an accurate forecast, or that's, a certain number of, hazard recognition, cards getting turned in, or whatever those metrics are that you say, hey, you know, we're all working together on this valuable goal that we've got, that we've all kind of feel is valuable.
Mhm.
And here's what good looks like. And we're measuring that, and we're putting that up there, right? It's like a football team, right? I mean, everybody's like, okay, well, getting this ball across that goal line is the valuable thing that we're all working toward. And the way we know we're doing good is we can look at the scoreboard and see that it's, 21-7, you know? And so I think you keep people motivated by helping them see the valuable goal they're chasing, and and measuring what good looks like and keeping that in front of them. So I don't know if that's the right answer, but that's kind of what that's kind of way I think people will behave, and that's what I've tried to do. So
Yeah, no, I think that's actually. Um, Another question I want to ask you is, what conflict resolution techniques do you use, or have you used in the past when your team members having a disagreement or not be really being able to see eye to eye on something?
yeah, I think there's two things when I think about conflict, and I think about disagreements and resolution in those. There's kind of two things that I think are really important. And there's probably a lot more than that, but these are the things that I focus on. The first one is respect, because I think, folks start to get emotional when there's disagreements. Folks start to get emotional because it's like, I'm right and you're wrong, or you're telling me that I'm wrong and that's the other person's right, and so that's kind of where in general, there's a conflict because I feel I'm right and I feel the other person's wrong, but there's a disagreement here. And so I think, you got to start that disagreement with respect and say, like, look, everybody's coming at this from different angles with different perspectives and different ideas of what they think the right answer is. And we want all those perspectives, right? We're going to make a decision and we may choose the wrong thing, right? But in order to make that decision, first of all, we want all of those perspectives and all that input and all that, sort of thinking on the table. And so, don't get your feelings hurt if you don't get your way, but
Right.
we're going to approach that disagreement with respect for the different perspectives and views, right?
Yeah.
And then I think, once you've kind of got the respect so that there's some safety and like it's okay to disagree, right? I mean, sometimes folks are like, well, we should all just always sing kumbaya and everybody be in agreement. And I'm like, come on, it's a real world, right? I mean, it needs to be safe to disagree if we have different opinions, and let's get all that on the table. And then after that, I think you got to have real clarity on the decision making process. So you
Mhm.
say, look, we've got to make a decision. We don't all have to see eye to eye, but here's the different roles and responsibilities in this thing and how we're going to make a decision, you know?
Yeah.
And so as all this comes in, we hear all of the different perspectives and we listen to the pros and cons. And if it's clear that, okay, well, my voice was heard, you know, and maybe I didn't get my way. There was a decision that went a different direction than I wanted to go, but I at least felt heard in
Mhm.
that
And respected. Yeah.
and respected in that.
Right.
At least got heard and respected in that. Then it becomes okay. I'm making a decision. You know, I hope it's the right decision. It might be the wrong one, but we got to make one. So this is what we're doing. So now we're moving forward, and here's why. Here's kind of what I weighed and my decision, and we've made that. Okay, now let's all stack hands and move forward, and now it's time to salute the flag, right? It's like we listened, we made a decision, you know, but now we've got to move on, right? And so
Right.
I think all along that process, there are ways where either, lack of communication or lack of respect can kind of keep the emotions in it. But I think if you do it the right way, have clear decision responsibilities, have respectful conversations along the way, and then just expect people to whatever the decision is. All right, now we got to unify on that, right?
Right.
Understand you wanted to throw a pass and I called a run, but when we get on the line, you better run the play. It's like, regardless of what your opinion is on what we should have called,
Yeah.
so
Nah, no, really good answer. I completely agree with that. And then I guess the last question, what advice would you give to younger people or those with less experience looking to progress in their careers and improve their leadership and management capabilities?
yeah, I would just circle back to sort of that initial idea of, be a leader without stripes, don't wait on an appointment, don't wait on, getting hired into a supervisor job or being appointed as a team lead, you know, think about what does leading look like as an individual contributor. Start by leading yourself, be a good leader of yourself, and then be a good, peer leader, lead amongst your peers. And I think leading amongst your peers is an idea that can help you, even as you become a formal leader, right? You're like, well, now, okay, well, now I'm a manager, but I want to be a director. Okay, well, you're on a team of a bunch of managers,
Right.
and you can be a leader among your peers there, right? And so, I think don't wait on authority. Yeah, lead amongst your peers. Use influence
Mhm.
to lead more so than authority.
Mhm.
So don't wait on the authority
Okay.
to lead. Use your influence of your role and build influence and steward influence and manage influence to be a leader among your peers. And so, and then the authority kind of comes, right? I mean, if
Right.
you just lead, then
Mhm.
as you lead, the organization will give you authority.
Right.
So kind of keep the chicken and the egg in the right order that way. That'd be my advice. So